Okay, I think we'll get started. It's 3 o'clock. So good afternoon, everybody. My name's Andrew Longland. I'm the Managing Director of HIT Technology, and we're hosting this webinar this afternoon, along with our partners at ZAP. This webinar is all about how you can unlock the power of your SYSPRO data with the ZAP product. And working alongside me today is David Ramirez, who is the Partner Enablement Manager for ZAP. So we work quite closely with David, and he will take you through a lot of the content in today's session. But before we get into that, just a couple of housekeeping bits and pieces. First of all, this session is being recorded. We will publish it out on our YouTube channel after the event, so if you've got any colleagues that would like to see it, or if you miss anything during the session, obviously you can watch it back later. And also, if you wouldn't mind just staying on mute through the presentation, we will have a Q&A session at the end, but for David to sort of concentrate and get through the content and through the demo, it'd be really useful if we can just keep everybody on mute for now, if that's okay. I'm going to be sort of chairing this session and hosting it, and David will then take over. But by way of introduction, as I said, my name's Andrew, and David is the Partner Enablement Manager at ZAP. We'll talk a little bit about HIT Technology before we get into the ZAP product, where David will then take you through some of the common reporting challenges that we see across many different industries, and then we'll start to describe what ZAP is. What does it do? How does it work? What does it look like? And what does it offer you? What is it that it's going to solve for you? And then once we've been through that, David will then do a demonstration of ZAP and show you some of the capabilities of it, including some of the out of the box reports that you can get access to straight away. It's already linked up with SYSPRO, so it's not like you've got to build something from scratch. And then go into some of the more advanced features in terms of tailoring that solution to your specific needs. After he's finished that, we'll talk about a particular success story that ZAP has had, just to bring it a little bit more to life in a real world scenario. And then finally, as I said, we'll have a Q&A session, which is your chance to ask anything that might be a pressing question that you have, any queries that you may have in terms of what we've presented. So that's towards the end. Okay, so as I said, you've got myself, Andrew, and you've got David. We'll take you through this today, and by all means, reach out to us, either us at the end of this as well. We'll share our contact details with you, so that you can get in contact with us anytime. So, who are HIT Technology? Some of you know us, some of you don't. Just want to briefly go through what we're all about. So HIT Technology was established about 15 years ago. We are a UK owned and operated company, completely independent of SYSPRO. We are a SYSPRO premium solutions partner. So we have SYSPRO at the core of everything that we do, and that's the whole purpose of the business. We provide consultancy and support, implementation services, integration services, etc. for SYSPRO. And we work with quite a large range of customers across the UK, in all sorts of different industries and of varying different sizes as well, from a handful of users up to 60, 70, 80 user implementations as well. What does HIT Technology look like these days? Well, we're a team of 16 staff, all multi-skilled in various different aspects of either SYSPRO consultancy or support. We've got support analysts, we've got ERP consultants, we've got technical consultants, service delivery manager, etc. And we work very much on a basis of everything we do is consultancy led. So we're not box shifters. We're not trying to just sell software, we look to find what adds value to our customers. Where does a product fit best? What are the needs of the customer, and how can we solve their issues, rather than just trying to sell the next shiny thing. And as I said, SYSPRO is at the core of everything that we do, but we do also have a portfolio of other products and services that we offer that add value to SYSPRO. And on the screen now you can see a handful of them. As I say, SYSPRO is in the center of all that lot, because that is the core of what we do. But we partner with a large number of other solution providers, including ZAP. But we've got others that are involved in warehouse management, label printing, AP automation, all those sort of things, because SYSPRO doesn't do absolutely everything that every customer needs. So we partner with best of breed products to offer the full ecosystem that you might need from your ERP vendor. And then finally, before I hand over to David to get into the real interesting stuff, just want to sort of touch on why customers choose to work with us. And there's 4 pillars to that, really. First of all, if you're going to work with an ERP partner, you need someone with the expertise in that area, and that's what we offer. We've got a team of people that have been working with SYSPRO for far too long now, many years, and we bring to that, as I said, a consultative approach. We're not just there to hammer home the latest product. We're looking to work with you and understand what your requirements are, both now in the short term and longer term as well, so that we're there on that journey with you. And we try to solve all your problems. The entire team is made up of problem solvers, whether they're consultants or support analysts. They're all there to solve the problem that you might have. And then finally, the experience that we have in the team, a lot of our team, I'd say the vast majority of the team, actually come from industry backgrounds. So they're not just software people. They've worked in your environments. They've come from customer backgrounds, so they've worked maybe in supply chain or operations within customers. So they've got the experience. They understand the issues that you face. They understand the terminology that you might use. So we offer that experience as well as the software expertise. Okay, so that's probably enough of me rattling on. I will hand over to David, who will take you through what ZAP's all about. David.
Super. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you everyone for joining this event. My name is David, and as Andrew already mentioned, I'm partner enablement manager in ZAP, and I will be presenting the ZAP section. Firstly, I'm very excited to be here with you today, where we can explore together how we can expand and extend SYSPRO reporting capabilities using ZAP, right? So, I want to start with a bit of a reflection. Let me just change the slide. On what are the common reporting challenges that many companies face today? And throughout all the years of experience that we have in this industry and working with SYSPRO customers, I believe that we have gained a fairly good understanding of where companies are at, what are the common reporting challenges that you might be facing, and how can we get quick wins to overcome those challenges that you might be facing. So I want to invite you, let's take a pause, and I want to invite you to have a close analysis on this picture, because I believe that this is a bit of a reflection on where we are at the end of the month, right? With long hours of work, with an army of mugs of coffee, mountains of paperwork trying to create reports. I think this represents kind of that frustration that we face at the end of the month, right? And the reality is that today we are in a world of data, where every number, every data point, every data entry, every KPI that we require for our analysis is buried and hidden in mountains of paperwork, in mountains of databases. We have many times we find ourselves with multiple reporting solutions, Maybe you are using Excel and we are using another solution to create reports. And many times you have an army of Excel files that are spread across all the organization. And the problem is that they are disconnected reports. They're providing you different versions of the truth, which will obviously lead to inconsistent reporting. And this is something that I call, data chaos. But the reality is that many people are still facing this today. And let's expand a bit closer on how the reporting process looks like in an organization. So firstly, let's think about how do you prepare a financial statement or how do you prepare a sales report? First and foremost, it's a manual process, right? So every month we manually, and I'm just illustrating one of the many scenarios of how people create reports, but it's a manual process. Many times we manually export the data from SYSPRO to Excel, right? Once we have the information in Excel that can be in a form of a trial balance, let's say, we manually clean the data. We are manually deleting certain records. There were initial entries that we have. We are manually introducing certain records. We're complementing the data with budgets or with a way of how we want to group our chart of accounts. Then we're manually using functions, look B, look age. We are giving manually format to the data so it's in the right shape and format that we require in our analysis. And then once we have that, we need to share that to the decision makers so we can start discussing and analyzing the data, right? So firstly, it's a manual process. Then how long it took you to build this report? Hours, days, weeks? So think about how many hours per year we waste preparing reports rather than actually analyzing the data. So this is an extremely time-consuming process where there is actually very few strategy in this process. Rather than investing the time discovering the insights, we waste that time preparing the reports again and again and again. And I'm just talking right now about just, let's say, one report. But once we finish that report, we realize that maybe that financial statement that we have now, we want to break down by a specific segment or cost center, or we want to do certain currency conversion. So this is a very time-consuming process. Now, it is a manual process, right? And the fact that it's manual, it makes it prone to errors. And unfortunately, throughout my data analytics career, I have seen many companies making wrong decisions because they are having the right reports because the data wasn't accurate. And as funny as it might seem, I have seen closed financial statements wrong. Just because at the end, when they prepare the report, they just forgot to multiply a number -1, due to the debit and the credit nature of the signs. So they present the number, they forgot to multiply by 1, and then that was a closed financial statement. So imagine all the consequences of having a wrong closed financial statement and all the decisions that went after this small mistake, right? So it is a manual process, it's time consuming, it's prone to errors. And then also we have a limited visibility. Once we have the report, as I was mentioning before, we have our financial statement, we have our sales report, we realize that that information is not enough. And the reality is that today we are living in an interconnected community where, the IT landscape is much more complex than just the data that we have in the ERP. Many of us, and I'm sure you might have your budgets or targets or forecast in Excel. You might use a CRM, a XRM, a WMS system. You might want to integrate your historical data, right? You might have an old version of SYSPRO and you want to have full visibility of how your KPIs are evolving. So we need to combine these, data sources, these data entries to have full visibility of the business. So all of these components that I'm mentioning, the manual process, time consuming, prompt to errors, limited visibility, these are just not inconveniences that we face, but these are actually barriers for growth, right? And I'm sure you have likely felt at least some of these pains, not having reports on time, having a lack of visibility, which, in terms of businesses means missed opportunities, financial discrepancies, hours and hours of you spent trying to trust the report, right? Because you might have different versions of the truth. So this is what I call the data chaos, right? And where do I want us to move? Well, I want to, remove all this manual process and automate the journey so we can have, automated process that integrates all your data so you can have timely insights, right? So let's move from data chaos, which is what we have and we can see in this picture, to a data harmony, right? So here is where our hero of the story comes into place. Here is where I'm going to start talking about ZAP. And ZAP is more than a reporting solution. It is a transformation engine for SYSPRO, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But basically what we do, we transform SYSPRO data into high quality insights and intelligence so you can create reports from it. So one of our biggest value propositions is that we are not, and we do not pretend to be a generalist solution. We specialize in SYSPRO. So we are designed to seamlessly integrate with SYSPRO. And for you as the end customer, what does that mean? Well, that means that we are a plug and play solution. That means that within a matter of days, sometimes even hours, you will be able to connect. We will be able to connect to your SYSPRO data. And from there, we will be able to deploy hundreds of out-of-the-box reports for different modules. So we have for financials, for sales, for account receivables, accounts payables, inventory. We have financial statements, manufacturing. So that pre-built approach, and that's where I want to go to the next step, which is the time to value. That pre-built approach means time to value. Right? Because we understand the challenges that exist within your database. We understand the opportunities. We provide you with those KPIs that will give you immediate insights. But we also understand that every customer is different. And I'm sure that you have your unique way of how your SYSPRO was implemented, right? So the pre-built approach is just a starting point of your journey, right? What we want to provide you is a handicap. So you don't start from scratch. A handicap that will reduce, the time to implement the project, that will reduce the risk, that will help you to get more time to value, right? So the solution is 100% customizable, so this can be adapted and tailored to your own requirements, right? And if I contrast this picture with the one that I was showing you before, well, I'm talking about, removing that manual work. I'm talking about automation. I'm talking about creating one single source of truth and having that whole visibility of the business. So I'm going to talk about these last two, automated and one source of truth, in the next slide. But I just want to summarize that, what we are offering is a solution that is for you. It's a solution that is already pre-built, that it will be able to be customized to your requirements. And, we will automate the process from creating a report from scratch. So now, how does this work? And I have been mentioning that we are a transformation engine, right? That transform raw data into meaningful insights. So the first piece of the journey, and this is how the solution works, is we need to extract the data. We need to collect the data, right? And here is where we will be able to connect and extract data from different data sources, right? So if we have multiple companies in SYSPRO, we will automatically be able to consolidate the data so you can analyze everything in one single platform. But if you have historical data, you have budgets that are sitting in Excel, or if you are using any other business application that you want to integrate, we will be able to connect to it, right? So in this first stage, we are collecting that raw data that you might be generating, right? Now, the second step is automating that data transformation process. So remember that before I was telling, for example, we are thinking about a financial statement. Well, we need to group the accounts. We might need to do return earnings calculation. We might be needing to do certain currency conversions. All of those calculations that we are doing when we are building KPIs and metrics, here is where we are going to be, automating that process. Now, from the technical perspective, what we're building a data warehouse and a cube. So that's from the technical side. But from the analytical side, as I mentioned, here is where we are automating all those KPIs, where we are measuring all these different data sources into one single source of truth, right? So next time when you're thinking about financial statement and you want to just break down the same financial statement by a division or by company or analyze that in different currencies, everything will be sitting here in this, unified place for analysis. And once we have the data in the right shape and in the right format, it comes the last stage of the journey, which is, okay, how do we analyze the data, right? And here is where we can analyze the data using different platforms. You can use our own platform, which is where I will be concentrating my attention today during the session. But, if you have Power BI, if you want to analyze the data in Excel, let's say, that's something that you can actually do as well. Right, I'm happy to discuss this in another session in more detail. Right, so this is how the architecture of the solution works, bringing different components, the data extraction piece, the data transformation, and the data visualization. The heart of the solution sits within these two main components. But at the end of the day, what we care, what we want to analyze is, the beautiful part, which are the reports, and that is what I'm going to show you today, right? So I'm going to switch my screen. So please let me know if you can see my screen. So Andrew, can you just confirm with me if you can see now?
Yes, that's working, David. Yep.
Perfect. Amazing. Super. So I will start this demo of the solution slightly different. Normally, I start with the out-of-the-box report because I want to show you, I want to excite you with what is the value and what are some snaps of the out-of-the-box reports that we provide, which, for sure will accelerate your BI journey. But this time I want to start with this, which is not an out-of-the-box report. This is actually a customized report that I built for one of our customers a couple of weeks back. And the reason why I want to show this report is because we were having a conversation to them to understand what are the most important reporting challenges that they are facing. And basically, what they were telling us is, we want to have a daily snap of all our sales activities that are happening in the business on a daily basis. Right, so this is basically the daily sales report. So they wanted to have a corporate view of the daily sales intakes, what were the weeks to date sales intakes, and they wanted to analyze the months to date intakes, but they also wanted to analyze which are the open sales order to kind of forecast what was going to be invoiced in the next couple of weeks. So we are bringing information from sales order, we are bringing information from sales invoices. We are breaking down the data by different, by dates. We're breaking down the data by different product groups. So what I realized is that most of the components that we need to build this report, actually not most of the components, the 100% of those elements are already in our out-of-the-box solution. Right? So it's just about how we present the data to meet their customer requirements. So this is what I want to highlight. It's not just about having those out-of-the-box reports. It's about having a solution that we are able to customize in a very short period of time. So building this report is something that took me something around maybe 4 hours. And I would say that of those 4 hours, 3 hours was mainly about deciding which colors to use in the chart. But everything, all of those ingredients, the unit, the sales, the cost of sales, the margin, the month-to-date calculation, year-to-date, are things that are already coming within our solution, right? So I want to give you a quick overview about what this report looks like, what this report allows that customer to analyze. So firstly, what is my margin? What is my current margin? Then we're analyzing my sales on a week-to-date basis. We're comparing this against the previous period, my previous week, and also against my target. A feature that I want to highlight here is that based on these metrics, we can create comparison events. So basically that means that we can create workflows that can automatically send you a notification every time a KPI, every time a metric is out of its limits. For example, in this case, we have the margin and we can see that in week 24, my margin is 17%. Let's say that for my industry or for the standard of my industry, I don't want to be below 18%. So every time my gross margin is below 18%, the system will automatically trigger this workflow that will send, a notification maybe with this dashboard attached telling me, hey, be careful, your gross margin is below the limit that you established as healthy, right? So it's about being proactive. Then in this analysis, I'm breaking down the data the same, now on a monthly basis and then on a yearly basis. And then we're analyzing what are the outstanding orders that I have. Then in the next analysis, we're breaking down the data with a bit further detail, where we are adding, the quantity, the units, the cost of sale, which we are obtaining from a different module, the margin. We're analyzing, comparing the month to date against the budget to see if we are performing. We can see here that actually we are below the budget when it comes to on the month to date basis, and on a yearly basis we are slightly below. And we can see, analyze here, what are my outstanding sales orders. So this can be, we can actually use this to kind of create a forecast to analyze, okay, what am I going to invoice, right? In the next couple of weeks. And here I can actually see the next 6 weeks, what is forecast in my sales orders. Now, let's say that I receive this as an email, as a notification telling me, hey, on week 24, your gross margin is low. Let's analyze this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill down into the data, and I want to show you that drilling down capability. How can we interact with the data? So I'm just concentrating my attention now on this report. I'm isolating this report. And I want to analyze week 24. Right? So I'm going to expand into week 24, and now I'm analyzing this on a daily basis. So I can see, okay, how my sales are performing. And I can see that on the 12th of June, I sold 932K, and I'm obtaining a gross margin of 17%. So here's where I'm getting a problem, right? So let's say that I want to drill down. I want to understand which are those customers, which are those products, why am I getting that 17%, right? So you can decide how you want to drill down into the data. So if I right-click into this report, I have two options. I can analyze this from the customer perspective to see which customers purchased on this specific day, or I can analyze this from the product perspective. So everything is about having that capability to discover those insights. Going back into the financial statements, many times we have that financial statement, but if we want to see what are those expenses, you don't have many times that level of granularity that will tell you which transactions, which invoices are happening, right? Which is what I'm actually presenting you here. If I click on this button, now I'm drilling down that 932K. I can see that there were two customers, right? Platina Craft and Octane. Okay, now I want to see Platina Craft, right? Because in here is where I'm getting the 17%. Let's analyze that customer. And let's now break down the analysis by product. So when I click into this, I will see, now all the products that Platina customer purchased for the 12th of June, right? Which was the day that I was actually analyzing. And I will see here, now I found which is the problem. I can see that we have this product, which is 333, where I have a margin of 10%. Maybe it's a discount that I gave. I don't know what happened with this. So if I want to analyze actually the gross margin by this specific customer, with this specific transaction, this specific customer, I will just double click on my sales, and I will get to the lowest level of detail, where I will be able to even track which is actually that invoice that is creating these problems, right? So it's about having that capability to go from a very high level overview dashboard that was showing information on a very high level and drilling down all the way to the lowest level of detail, which is in this case, the transactional level, right? So this is one report. As I mentioned, this is not pre-built. This is something that I built within a couple of hours based on the requirement of this customer. But all the supplies, all the raw data that I required, I always make an analogy that creating a report is like cooking. And if I want to cook something, I need to have the right ingredients. And I already have all those right ingredients to build this report, right? Now, I'm going to show you now how does the out-of-the-box reports actually look like. And I will give you some quick snaps on our pre-built modules. So out of the box, as I mentioned before, we have out-of-the-box reports for finance, inventory, manufacturing, procurement, and sales, right? Again, this is the starting point. And I will be showing you right now just some out-of-the-box reports that we have for the financials, right? And in the financials, we have the accounts payables, accounts receivables, we have general ledger, where you will find all the standard financial statements, balance sheet statement, profit and loss statement, cash flow statement, the trial balance. And I will show you this one, which is the financials. And this is, in my opinion, one of my favorite dashboards. And the reason why it is one of my favorite dashboards is because at the end of the day, every transaction that we make it has an impact on finance, right? And in this dashboard, we have a high-level overview about how the financial health of my business is performing. So I have a summary of the 3 financial statements. We have the income statement on the left-hand side. On the center of the screen, we have the cash flow statement. And on the right-hand side of the screen, we have the balance sheet statement. So we have 3 financial statements summarized in one dashboard. And again, the idea is to provide you with a high-level overview so you can see how your business is performing. And from here, having the capability to drill down to go to the lowest level of detail, right? So as I mentioning, you have the capability to slice and dice the data. So I mentioned that if you have, for example, 4 different companies within SYSPRO, once we configure the solution, we will be able to, out of the box, we will be aggregating the data, right? So we will be summing all those transactions. Hey, if you have financial consolidation, if you have intercompany transactions, if you want to do currency conversions, again, that's something that we can handle, right? So we can always break down the data. We can see in the past, if you want to see how your data looked like, in December 2023, you can use these slices to drill down into the data, to slice the data and look, data in the past, right? So it's that capability to give you those ad hoc reports that you require. Now, I want to talk about having one single version of the truth. And I think this is massive because it's not about having, isolated reports. In this chart, you will see that I'm analyzing my net sales, my cost of sales, and my gross margin. But what happens if I want to drill down more into the sales, right? If you want to drill down more into the sales, you might want to analyze the sales from the financial perspective, which maybe drilling down into an income statement might make sense. But maybe you want to drill down from the operational perspective. Maybe you want to analyze your sales invoice transactions, your sales orders. You want to analyze, maybe you want to drill down into the previous report that I showed you before, right? So you can select how you want to drill down into the data, because at the end of the day, what we are creating is one single version of the truth, right? And let me give you some good examples, and I will show you actually that report in a moment. Creating, for example, a cash flow forecast, where you want to bring your accounts payables, your accounts receivables, and then you want to bring your banks to forecast how your cash flow will look like in the next 13 weeks. We are managing information from multiple modules, right? Or what if you are in the distribution industry and you want to integrate or manufacturing, and you want to integrate data from procurement, from sales, from inventory to create a supply chain dashboard. That's something that we will be able to help, because we can combine information from different modules, different places, different data sources in one single source of truth, right? So now we're drilling down into this financial statement. We have one of the many financial statements that we have. We have some visualizations here that are complementing the data that I have. And again, if I want to drill down into the lowest level of detail, I can just click on this figure and I will see the lowest level of detail, which in this case will be, the transactions or those general ledger entries that happened behind the scenes, right? So again, it's how we go from this high level overview dashboard to the lowest level of detail, which is the transactional level. Now, the final report that I want to show you is, again, this is not an out-of-the-box report. This is a report that I built for a specific customer. And actually, I want to jump from this dashboard to that report because when I was showing the out-of-the-box reports, they mentioned, this is great. The center of the screen is great because you have AP, you have AR, you can provide me with a cash flow statement. But for my business, it's very important to create a cash flow forecast because I want to see how my cash flow will look like in the next 13 weeks. But that's something that I cannot create solely from the ERP, solely from SYSPRO, because there are some transactions that are not yet posted there. For example, I want to buy certain machinery, I want to invest in certain fixed assets, or I want to hire certain people, and those transactions does not exist in the ERP, right? Those are assumptions. Those are plan of a master plan, right? And I want to see them. I want to see, how my bank balances will look like in the next 13 weeks. So they asked me, can you build something for that specific requirement? And the answer was yes, right? And the answer here lies in that capability to mix data, not only from multiple modules, but also from different, data sources. And I want us to concentrate our attention just on this report. Let me just maximize this. And sorry if the size is not the best. I actually need to work to resize this better. But I will explain what this report is showing you. So what we have on my columns, these are my next 13 weeks, right? And the first row that I have here, these are my opening balance. This is my banks, right? My bank balance that I have that you can break down by currency or by bank. Then I have the receivables. So these are all the accounts receivables that I'm pretending to get in the next 13 weeks. Now, the opening balance comes from the general ledger, comes from banks. The account receivables comes from the account receivable modules because this date that I have here is the expected payment date, right? So that information is in the account receivable module. Then we have my accounts payable. So I have, the inflows, the outflows. And then I have these other cash events, which is what I mentioned, those assumptions that does not exist in the ERP that we're extracting. In this case, we built a template in Excel that we are extracting from that Excel. So we can then forecast how my bank balances will look like in the next 13 weeks, right? So we can see here, analyze inflows, outflows, how my accounts are aging, and when the system is telling me, is being proactive and is telling me, hey, be careful, because on week 10, your bank balances will be below the healthy limits, right? So it's about how we can use the solution to automate this process, because building this report from scratch, imagine the amount of time that we will require to just summarize the data, group it, organize it in the shape and format that we require, right? So, this is basically what I wanted to show you from the analytical perspective. As I mentioned, I just want to give you a high-level overview of how the solution looks like. There are much more functionalities that I would like to show you if you have interest in the solution, if you want to have a more a demo customized to your requirements. I'm happy to have a discussion with you and have another session to show you this in much more detail. Now, I'm going to go back into my presentation. So just to wrap things up, and I want to use this also as my conclusion slide. As you saw, ZAP is a comprehensive data management analytical solution for SYSPRO, right? It comes with a pre-built solution that contains hundreds of reports that are, that can be customized and tailored to your own specific requirements. As you can see, it's very user-friendly. We can drill down into the data, we can explore, we can slice and dice, we can get to the lowest level of detail. And so it is a solution that will support you through all your data analytics journey, right? From the data extraction, data processing, also distributing the reports to the right outings based on a schedule or on a business alert, right? And we are providing you with one single source of truth, right? So as I mentioned, this pre-built approach, the value of this is that we will help you to have a greater adoption, to unlock that power of the data that you have today in SYSPRO. And well, this pre-built approach will help you get more value in the solution in a much more short period of time. Now, I want to talk a little bit, just the next couple of minutes, of AJ Wells. This is one of our success stories that we have for SYSPRO. Happy to discuss this again in much more detail, and happy to share with you the business case that we have built towards this company. But it's a family-owned business, right? And as many of you, it's a business that has been growing a lot in the last couple of years. So one of the challenges that they faced and they were facing was mainly in the financial part, in the financial reporting, right? As many of you, getting financial data, it was difficult. It was difficult to understand, to interpret the data, and that process was taking them a lot of time, right? So if I go back into the challenges that I mentioned at the beginning, we have a lack of visibility, we have a manual process, we have a time-consuming journey, right? And well, the solution for those challenges that we're facing was, in this case, ZAP, right? Using a solution that already understands SYSPRO, that can give them, immediate access to the data, that can help them reduce that time that it creates to create reports, to automate that process, so they can have, increased visibility of their business. So happy to discuss this in much more further detail. This is what I planned for today's session. I want to thank you for being here in today's session. So now let's move to the Q&A.
Fantastic, thanks, David. So for this Q&A session, if people would like to take themselves off mute and ask their questions, that's absolutely fine. Or if you prefer to use the Q&A option, there's a button hopefully at the top of your screens for Q&A that you can put your questions in there, and then I'll read those out and ask David to answer them. But yeah, feel free to use either option. It's absolutely fine. Okay, so we've got a question from Sarah there. David, how live is the data? So how often is it updating?
That's a very good question. So let me go back into this slide. So the data is not live, and the data will depend. We refresh the data based on a schedule. Generally, we process the data 1 time per day or 2 times per day, and that's the whole data model, right? But depending on the requirement, we can process a portion of the data model, on a shorter period of time. For example, when it's the end of the month, customers want to analyze the data, every 2 hours. That's something that we can actually automate, right? You can process data, on demand. If you want to process right now the data, you can just click on process data, and that will process the data model. And the length of the process will depend basically on the amount of data that you have. So it can be a process that can take, normally on average, I would say it takes half an hour, 30 minutes to update the whole data model. But that will depend on the amount of data that you have and the complexity of the transformations. But generally, just to shorten the response, normally we try to process data 1 time, 2 hours 2 times per day, and specific pipelines, specific portions of the data model, on a more common basis, maybe 2 hours, half an hour. It will depend on your data.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, David. Hopefully that answered your question, Sarah. Any other questions from anybody?
I have a quick question.
Of course, go for it.
Yeah. So we sort of do a lot of work now with sort of the marketplaces who suggest that we connect to them via APIs. So in regards to your data collection model, do you have predefined APIs, or is that sort of a solution that we can sort of develop?
We do have a pre-built APIs, and there are other scenarios where we can connect just using the standard API connection. So what we can do is that we can see that you analyze which are the solutions that you're actually using, right?
Yeah.
Which are those applications, and we can assess what is the best way to connect to those solutions that you have. Basically, our constraint is just about what the APIs allow us to see, right?
Yeah.
How they paginate the reports. But that's something I would say that actually we were having that discussion a couple of months back, and I'm almost sure that around 80% of our customers, something like that, they are using some sort of APIs to connect additional data.
Perfect. And just regarding your data destinations, obviously you've got the data hub and you've got Power BI. We sort of use Click internally. So is your data destination versatile to different Power BI platforms, or are you just using Power BI at the moment and ZAP?
It works better with Power BI. We have tried to connect Click in the past, and the reality is that ClickView has certain limitations when connecting to one, the queue, or in this case to a SQL database, right? When it comes to Power BI, the data model, let's say that it's kind of optimized. For example, many of the challenges that Power BI has with the data transformation are already optimized in our data model. So I would say that the best approach, well, the one I would recommend most of the cases first is going with our visualization tool, because everything is one roof. But then Power BI, and then if not, maybe Excel, especially in the financials, that's where people want to analyze Excel.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Questions, Adam. Thank you. I don't know if anybody else has any questions. I'm just going to ask one myself because it's sort of in my mind. In terms of training and support, David, what does ZAP offer to make sure that customers would have a smooth transition across to ZAP?
Yes, that's a great question. So basically, we have three ways, three paths for the learning. One is the instructor-led training. That's something that we provide. That's something that you can have with one of our customers. That's a generic course in terms of the features and functionalities that we have. We have also the self-paced course. So within our platform, we have the ZAP Academy, where you will find the training across the different components of the solution. So, they are in the data modeling side and in the data analytics side. So that's the second one, self-paced training, instructor-led training, and also we have training with our consultants, right? So that's more of a one-to-one session where we can design a training based on your requirements. Normally, we do that training after the completion of the project, so we can show you, what were the strategies and the changes that we made in the data model, so you can adopt the solution and you can move from there.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Any questions from our audience? I think you must have done such an excellent job, David. There aren't too many questions.
Super. No, well, thank you everyone again for taking the time to be here with us today. Hopefully you have gained a better understanding of what we do and how we can extend and expand the reporting functionalities of SYSPRO. Thank you, Andrew, for organizing this.
My pleasure.
If you have any further questions, or feel free to ask them or to reach out to us. And if you want to see the solution in much more detail, please feel free to reach out to Andrew, and we can actually book a demo.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that use LinkedIn, there's a couple of QR codes on the screen there for you to be able to follow us on LinkedIn. We post quite a lot of content on there of useful things, and obviously events like this we promote on there. So please do follow us on there, and you'll see what else we're doing over the coming months. I think I don't think there's any more questions. So yeah, just wrap it up there. I think we're 10 minutes ahead of schedule. So well done, David. Thank you for everybody attending.